Hi, and welcome to another episode of Brilliant But Lazy. I'm Alan.
I'm Josh. Episode 2. Here we go.
Episode 2, where we're still figuring out what we're doing with this. So this one's going to be a little bit different of a format from last week. We're going to talk a little bit about some pop culture news, because there's nothing really that's come out that is pop culture centric right now. Next week is Ant-Man, so in 2 weeks we'll have our review of that.
Yeah, no movies or TV, but plenty of news. Plenty of news.
Plenty of news. The only TV that came out is the final season of The Flash premiered last night, and I don't really have much to say about it except they did a Groundhog's Day episode. Meh.
Oh yeah, I haven't. Gosh, I think I stopped watching The Flash in like season 3. It's been a minute.
I've watched it the whole way through, so that's like I'm hanging in there with the Arrowverse for just a little bit longer until they end it with The Flash. So
every time you switch your camera angle, I notice a different button behind you. I feel like there should be a segment on this show of Alan's buttons, because like I'm zooming in on the black Power Ranger button on the top now, and I'm like appreciating it. I think that's a black Power Ranger button.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have all of the Power Ranger button, all the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on buttons like this, except for the Pink Ranger. I gave that one to my niece.
Oh, okay. Sad.
And I regretted it immediately. Let's get into it with our first story.
Which is?
Come on, OBS. There we go. Bob Iger talked about some stuff with Disney. I forgot we added this at the last second. That's why I didn't remember.
That's fine. Yeah.
Bob Iger had a Q1 call with the Disney investors and revealed some news. There's going to be a Toy Story 5. They should have stopped at 3. A Frozen 2 and a Zootopia. Frozen 3, sorry. And a Zootopia 2.
Right.
Which I'm all for. Zootopia needed a sequel a long time ago, and I'm glad they're finally getting to that.
I agree. It's been 7 years. That movie was amazing. It made over $1 billion. I heard they released some type of new shorts, like Tales of Zootopia or something like that. I heard those were significantly lighter in tone than the movie was, because the movie had significantly adult tones in some of their storylines in the movie. And so I didn't watch the shorts, but if they could bring back the feeling of the first one in a sequel, I'd be down for it, because I love that movie. And I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it like 2 years later, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a movie. I like it. Yeah,
I saw it about a year later. I didn't see it in theaters. I think the last animated Disney movie I saw in theaters was probably Inside Out.
Yeah. Well.
But there was some other news that they announced in this call, including 7,000 layoffs. But on the happier side of things,
it was an earnings call, and they didn't bring Bob Iger back just to, for the thrill of it. They brought him back because, there was a lot of stuff going down at Disney. I mean, in this call, Disney proper reported an 8% rise in sales, and a profit rise of 11%. However, Disney Plus reported a 1.5 billion loss, and its subscribers fell, billion with a B, and its subscribers fell by around 2.4 million. I mean, they still have 161.8 million subscribers, but Disney Plus lost some money. And, but Bob Iger, basically his talk to that was, we're focusing too much on subscriber numbers and we're forgetting about, the quality of content. So he brought in some ideas for restructuring the company. And he did announce some layoffs, and his main theme was, we need to keep creative people at Disney, and the further we get away from creatives, and the more we delve into stuff like subscribers, that's why we lose. So This is why they brought him back, to talk about the hard truths and to make some hard decisions. And so it wasn't a surprise that, he's bringing some hard decisions to the table.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Disney over the next year, because they've got some pretty big lineup coming to Disney Plus. I'm curious if they're going to if those numbers are going to go up at all. If they're going to end this year with in the black instead of in the red with Disney Plus. Because you got Mando coming back, you have Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Loki season 2. So
yeah, Mando, they've been pushing that hard. I don't know if you've noticed. I mean, I don't have TV, so I only see like trailers and things when they show up on YouTube, but they're saying the phenomenon is returning. I mean, they're like putting it up on the highest pedestal they could put it to say, hey, you remember that show you loved? It's coming back. Come back for season 3. So they're working hard to lure some people back to the platform. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. I think they know that Baby Yoda was such a phenomenon, and they're still cashing in on that.
Mm-hmm. I heard some rumors that they're looking on expanding that Baby Yoda presence, Grogu's presence, as well as possibly a return for Rey, who was not my favorite character. However, if written better, maybe she could become one of my favorite characters. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see if that's just rumor or if there's some truth to that. I'm sure soon.
Yeah, we'll find out. I'm all for more Star Wars. So, yeah. Our next story is there was some.
One more thing about that. They talked. It came out that in 2015. Marvel chairman and former president Ike Perlmutter, I don't know if that's how you say his name, tried to fire Kevin Feige. Back in 2015. The quote from Iger was, in 2015, he was intent on firing Kevin Feige, who was running Marvel. And I thought that was a mistake and stepped in to prevent that from happening. I think Kevin is incredibly, incredibly talented executive that the Marvel track record speaks for itself. So I went back to 2015 and I was like, what was going on in 2015 Marvel-wise? And granted, what was coming out wasn't necessarily why, but, Ant-Man released that year and Age of Ultron. And I know Age of Ultron had, some significant backlash. I mean, it still made some money, but a lot of people were disappointed in it. However, from other things we've heard about Ike, it might have been more about the fact that Kevin Feige was about to bring Black Panther to the screen, and, Ike might have had a problem with certain ethnicities getting that kind of spotlight. So Iger didn't talk about that specifically, but said that he stepped in to save Kevin Feige from being fired in 2015. And I just can't imagine what the final parts of Phase 2 would have been like if not for Feige there. That and
the start of Phase 3, like Phase 3, we might if Kevin Feige had been fired, we might not have Thanos. Like that changes the whole timeline of everything. Speaking of Marvel stuff, since we're talking about Kevin Feige. There were some updates for Fantastic Four. The director, Matt Shakman, talked a bit about it, saying all of the casting stuff that you see is just rumors.
Of course. There's been a lot recently. A lot of casting rumors, for sure.
I'm looking at
this was article. He was on like the Wrap, right? And he was talking about this. I didn't catch the Wrap, but
yeah,
I feel... he didn't drop a ton of stuff.
He didn't.
I feel like they were just kind of bloating this Screen Rant.
He dropped that the film will start filming in early 2024, which puts it on time to make its February 2025 release date.
Now, we are a week out at the point of recording this. We are a week out from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and there are significant rumors that Fantastic Four might be present in that film, and might that film might be a tie-in for how the Fantastic Four enter the MCU proper as we know it. I don't know if that's the case. I've been trying to avoid spoilers. Many members of the press have seen it, but they're not allowed to say whether or not they liked it until Sunday, I believe. So
I've been seeing I've been seeing some reactions, not like official reviews of the movie. I'm trying to avoid everything. Like, I know that the script leaked at one point, and there's a lot of rumors out on the internet, so I'm just trying to avoid anything Ant-Man related.
Yeah, I feel like I'll have a better chance of enjoying it if I don't know anything going in. So
yeah,
So
that's where
we'll
I'm
see.
at. Yeah, well, and we'll be talking about that here on the next Brilliant but Lazy, so stay tuned for that.
Absolutely.
In other Marvel news, Amazon and Sony are teaming up for a Spider-Man noir TV show, a live-action Spider-Man noir. They just announced this today. Yeah, today. They're partnering with Amazon and MGM Plus. And they're doing this along with the Silk live-action series.
Right.
Over there on Amazon.
This is interesting. I mean, I guess Sony doesn't have a streaming platform to launch their stuff. It is interesting that they're not going with Disney Plus, but I guess they didn't go with Disney for the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. So maybe that's just, all things that aren't Tom Holland. Even though that there is a Spider-Man animated series coming to Disney Plus that's like about his high school years or something like that, or freshman year or something.
Yeah.
That's not with Tom Holland, but it seems like they're the expanded projects, the Spider-Man extended universe projects are coming out at Amazon, and from what I've heard, Amazon is very serious about this. Like, they're putting some time and some money and some work ethic behind these, and it could be something pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm interested in this. Oren Uzel is the writer and executive producer. He wrote the screenplay for The Lost City. His other writing credits include 22 Jump Street, the 2021 Mortal Kombat, and the Cloverfield Paradox. You lost me on that last one. Like, I love the Cloverfield movies, but Paradox was...
Well, Paradox wasn't a Cloverfield movie until they were like, oh, hey, this movie looks cool. Let's throw in some side stuff and make it a Clover. I fully believe that movie was complete and shot, and then they added the Cloverfield stuff in post to make it a Cloverfield movie.
Yeah, I got so caught up in the, oh my God, they're releasing a Cloverfield movie tonight after the Super Bowl.
I remember. It was huge. It was a big thing.
That was a big thing.
And then a big letdown. But 22 Jump Street was amazing. That movie still cracks me up. It's one of the best sequels of all time. It was hilarious. If I ever need a good laugh, I'll go back and watch 22 Jump Street before I watch 21 Jump Street, because it's a damn good movie. And I've heard really good things about the Borderlands movie coming up. So this could be fun. I mean, you would think this would have an element, a significant element of comedy to it. So, I think this could be fun. Now, the question is Nicolas Cage going to be attached or not?
That would be amazing. Or you get Danny Pudi doing his Nicolas Cage impression from Community.
That's a good episode. Yeah.
I don't know, but if they get Nick Cage back, our friends over on That's High Praise better cover it.
I also wonder what version of this, because Spider-Man Noir was in the Into the Spider-Verse movie, but that's not the first time we've seen him. You know, he there was like some comic series. I think he was in a video game or two. There's been some different adaptions of him, you know. And so I don't know if this is going to be based on the Nicolas Cage version of the character or based on something else. I imagine that since they're bringing in the comedy, it's going to be more comedic than the more bleaker versions that we've seen in the past of this character. So who knows? But it's interesting, and people were wondering. It seemed like he was the only one that wasn't showing up in the trailer for the next movie, the Across the Spider-Verse movies. So maybe this is going to show why, if they're connected. But it's exciting. I'm excited about it, and you know that's saying a lot considering how they dropped the ball with Morbius.
They did not just drop the ball; they dropped the whole basketball court.
Well, apparently someone's still giving them money because they're moving forward.
I'll say this: like, you got somebody who worked with Lord and Miller on 22 Jump Street. Lord and Miller are the ones behind the Spider-Verse movies, so that gives me a little bit of faith. Like, it's the most hopeful I've been for a live-action Sony Marvel property since.
Really, you're not feeling this way about Kraven?
I mean, considering who they like, I just watched Bullet Train over the weekend, and considering who they have playing Kraven, I'll go see that willingly because I've liked Aaron Taylor Johnson since Kick-Ass. So
I still think that's his last good role, and in my opinion, unfortunately, I did not like Bullet Train. I still don't believe Kraven is an actual movie. I won't believe it until I see something legitimate with it. But but that's not the only thing Amazon is bringing to the table. They might be working with the Marvel character, but they also ordered an animated series adaptation of Witches, which is coming from Scott Snyder, who's a big DC writer, and Jock, who's done a lot of DC content. So this was a side project that Scott Snyder did either right after he finished his Batman run or during his Batman run. And it's one that I've yet to read, but I've heard a lot about it. And I think I have the first issue, and it was creepy. But the duo of Scott Snyder and Jock was iconic for the comic. And so to see that they are adapting it for Amazon gets me pretty pumped.
Yeah,
have you ever heard of this comic?
I have not heard of this, but I like Scott Snyder's take on Batman, so I check this out for sure. Like, I didn't even know Scott Snyder was involved with it until you said his name just now, because I did a wonderful job of reading everything before prep.
Well, according to this article in Variety, Witches tells the story of 17-year-old sailor Rooks, whose family moves to a remote New England town after a tragic accident, only to discover that a burrow of monsters, ancient creatures that prey on our darkest fears and desires, lurks beneath the town. So, Scott Snyder is an excellent writer, and the comic did really well. So if he's involved in the writing of the series, I think that could be awesome.
Yeah, just from that description, I'm getting Stephen King vibes, mostly because of the New England town. So,
yeah. I remember I met Scott Snyder in at New York Comic Con. I went there as a fan back in 2010, I believe, and I was there to promote this other film. This guy wanted me there to promote his film, and it was fun. But I got to step away, and I really wanted to go meet Scott Snyder, because he had just finished before he was officially writing for Batman. He wrote this offshoot Batman series, and it was called Gosh, what was it called? Shoot. I'm blanking on what it was called. I have it behind me. It was something about the history of Gotham, and I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it was really good, and I was, so I wanted to meet him, and I stood in line for forever. It was a long ass line, and it finally got to me, and then I could tell they were closing up the line, because they were like trying to move on to the next thing. So this guy was like, "Hey, just give him your thing to sign, and then keep moving." And so anyway, I gave him my thing to sign, and I'm like, "Hey, I really, really like your writing. It's really cool. What you did with Batman. Oh, it's called Gates of Gotham. What you did with this miniseries, I really liked it." And this was when he was teasing the Court of Owls for the first time, and I was like, "I really like what you did with that, and I hope you could do more of that now that you're writing for Batman proper." And I remember he said, "Oh, you really like that, huh? Give me a second. Let me show you something." And he pulls out his briefcase, and the guy's trying to move me along, and Scott looks up and he goes, "Hold up, I want to show him something." And he pulls out the first storyboards for the first comic of Batman proper that he's writing, and he wanted to show me how it does link back to Gates of Gotham. And I was just standing there like jaw dropped and just looking at this and like, holy shit, this is awesome. And I thought that was really cool and, really nice of him to do. So I've always been a fan of his. And this is neat that one of his side projects is being picked up like this.
Yeah, we'll circle back to Batman in the Court of Owls here in a bit because I've got some thoughts. But since you brought up DC, there's been some DC news. I don't know if you heard this, Josh, but they canceled the Batgirl film.
They canceled it?
They canceled it.
What?
But funny enough, like to pull the image that I got for the show today, I looked on I go to IMDb first to get the posters from there, and they still have a page on IMDb that says in production. So
no, it is not.
But the Batgirl movie was going to star Leslie Grace and Brendan Fraser as Firefly. And I don't know if you know this, but Brendan Fraser's been getting a lot of press lately. So in an interview, he on Howard Stern, he talked about the cancellation. And I saw a bit of the interview on TikTok. He revealed some more information about the test screenings. I have friends and coworkers and associates who've seen it. They all said really good things about it. The thing about it is when it was screened in a garden variety test screening, it was a director's cut, first cut. It wasn't finished. I don't know about you, but I don't eat a half-baked cake.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I think they wanted his take because Gunn and Safran recently came out, and even Safran said this film was unreleasable. They said it would not only hurt the DC brand, it would hurt anybody attached to it. There was one point where it was strictly being made for HBO Max. Then there was this rumor that, oh my gosh, with Keaton attached, it's so good, we're going to release it in theaters. And according to Safran, it was not theater worthy, and it was barely TV worthy. And, I think Brendan Fraser says he has not seen it, but he did make comment to that, the cut that was screened had a lot of unfinished, there was a lot of stuff that they had to do in post. And so I think he was trying to make an argument for, there's always going to be some misconceptions about a film when you don't screen it in its final stage. But he never comes out and necessarily says this movie was great and they're lying to your face. You know, I think he's trying to be diplomatic about a project that was recent, that he was in, and maybe a decade down the road he'll turn George Clooney and be like, thank God that film didn't come out because it was terrible. But I wouldn't. It doesn't sound like he's, screw Safran and screw Gunn. They took my movie and threw it in the trash.
I mean, well, they didn't.
Right.
That was a decision made before them.
Well,
My
that's
fa-
not necessarily what Safran said. Safran said that Zaslav came to them and said, "Look, we don't want to release this film, but now that you two are here, I'll give you the opportunity to watch it, and you make the call." So it was
yeah,
scrapped. They got to see it, and then they did make the final call. But
yeah. Well,
I mean, that's three big people saying it's unreleasable. I think that's pretty credible.
yeah, my favorite quote here from Brendan Fraser about the whole thing is, "It's disappointing for obvious reasons, but moreover because little girls are going to have to wait longer now before they can see a Batgirl who they can identify that says, 'Hey, she looks like me too.'" And Leslie Grace, and she was wonderful. She was so good, really terrific. She's a firecracker like dynamite. Comes in a small package for a reason. So he goes on to praise Leslie Grace, and I hope at some point we can see a little bit of the movie, maybe not the whole thing, but at least give us a little bit of what that performance was.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is sad because I do get what he's saying, because if they move forward with in this new direction, I doubt they're going to bring her in
Yeah,
as Batgirl. Same thing with Sasha Cal or Kale, she was supposed to be Supergirl in the Flash movie. There are heavy rumors that they have completely scrapped that, and that the Supergirl movie that James Gunn recently released is not including her.
yeah,
So they're not going to have her in the Flash, or they're going to make it certain at the end of the Flash movie that this isn't the Supergirl we're moving forward with.
yeah,
And that she's a Latina actress, and if they're being faithful to the comic that Gunn referenced, it's a blonde white gal, and so she probably won't be cast in that role. Who's to
yeah,
say? But I get what Brendan Fraser's saying, and that is a point to be made.
yeah. Yeah. So that's it on Batgirl, and then there are conflicting reports on the state of Constantine 2. Because I
Yes.
saw that it is scrapped, but now there's a report saying that Constantine 2 is still in the works at Warner Brothers Pictures, with Francis Lawrence directing and Keanu Reeves still lined up to return.
Yeah, I had seen
Um,
the same thing, that it was scrapped, but apparently that might not have been based on fact.
I have not seen the first Constantine, so what's your take on this?
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow. I mean, it was definitely one of those films where the casting did not reflect the source material. Constantine is a blonde-haired British dude with a hard accent, and the CW went back to that. The animated films went back to that. But Constantine was a fantastic film. I loved that film so much. Even it had everything that, let's see, what year did Constantine come out? Constantine.
2005,
Okay, so it had
I think.
everything to uh t- let's see, I'm pulling it up. 2005. You're correct. It had everything a 2005 action film needed. It had a badass main character who was like, he had some cool weapons and he knew things that you didn't. It had Shia LaBeouf as the annoying sidekick, and it had a bunch of other cool characters. Tilda Swinton was an angel that just annoyed the shit out of you. Like, I hated her character, but I loved her playing the angel.
Hmm.
There was it was a hell of a cast. It was like exorcisms plus demons and guns and angels and philosophy and Satan, and it was everything all packed into one film, and it was cool. It was really cool. It was really edgy, and the fact that even though it was loosely based, the fact that it was another R-rated film coming out that was based on DC property, it brought me back to my younger years watching Blade, and so I really did appreciate it. And even though Keanu Reeves looks nothing and sounds nothing like the character, a lot of people were still like, yeah, but I'd love to see him come back. And so I hope it's not scrapped. James Gunn made it clear he wasn't saying everything that they're coming out with in this first slate.
Yeah.
And he also made it clear that there was going to be films that were not part of the proper DC universe. And so with those two comments, this could fit in that area. So I hope it's not scrapped.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we should talk about the bulk of what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is the chapter 1 of the DC universe, Gods and Monsters, the whole slate of properties, films, and TV shows that are coming out from DC under the guidance of James Gunn and Peter Safran. Mm-hmm. Looking at this chart here, they have it kind of like, so first they have it with everything that's slated to come out this year. So we have in March, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. In June, the Flash film with Ezra Miller. Blue Beetle is coming out in August, and Aquaman is coming out in December.
Yeah.
So there's
and
we're
supposed to get an onslaught of movie trailers this Sunday for the Super Bowl. Do you foresee any of these movies having a trailer in the Super Bowl?
I think I saw a few on the list.
Have they officially released a list?
There was a list going around. Here, Vulture has a list. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Fast X.
Of course, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Scream, Air just dropped.
Yeah. Okay, this isn't the list I thought I saw. I know Guardians is supposed to release a trailer.
Okay. Well, June ain't that far away. You would think the Flash would have it.
Yeah.
But maybe...
I
feel like they're just trying to wait till the last second to promote Flash. Like they're trying to give themselves some buffer room from last summer's controversies as much as they can.
The weirdest thing about this whole slate is Flash resets the universe, but then they have 2 movies after that.
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah.
So I don't know how much of a restart it's going to be, unless it's going to be like, okay, their universe is restarted, but we still have these 2 last stories to tell. Blue Beetle could go either way. Like Blue Beetle could be in the new universe and fit. Aquaman, though, since you still have Jason Momoa coming back, I don't really know how that's going to fit into this new universe.
Well, their release in 2023 might not necessarily be their canonical, timeline in the movies.
Yeah.
So they could easily be. Aquaman's coming out in December. It doesn't necessarily mean it happens after the Flash movie. It just releases after the Flash movie.
I'm going to call it now. If we don't get a Flash trailer for the Super Bowl, they're changing the release order, and Flash is going to come out at the end of the year.
Haven't they done that like 3 times already?
They have.
I'm pretty sure these films have, with the exception of Blue Beetle, I'm pretty sure these have all been playing musical chairs like the last 2 years. Yeah. And they've been refilming stuff and then cutting stuff, and they even brought Ben Affleck back to film the end of one of these movies, and then I think they ended up cutting that. I don't even know the extent of what Keaton shot for Flash and what they're keeping there. I don't know what Flash is gonna be, man.
I know
from all the rumors we've had over the last 3 years of this film, and then all of the things that have been cutting and then reshooting. Yeah. I have no idea what to expect of that film.
I mean, they're releasing merchandise like toys with Michael Keaton's Batman for the Flash, so he's probably in it at some point. But yeah, so that's the stuff that those are the leftovers that they have from the Snyderverse that are still going to be released. Anything else that was announced beforehand, like Joker Folie Duel, the Batman Part 2, that's all considered Elseworlds from this point on. That goes along with Teen Titans Go and then like the CW stuff, so Superman and Lois, which isn't Arrowverse technically, but it should have been, but they made a weird call with that.
I have not seen the third season. I don't know if the third season has dropped yet, but
It has not.
the first season of Superman and Lois was really good. It was really good. The first half of the first season was freaking fantastic. I mean, this version of Superman had definitely come out in the Arrowverse. I can't remember if he launched first in the Supergirl show or in the crossovers, but I was worried when that this show was gonna be drowning in the Arrowverse, but they made it a point in the first season to really disconnect it from the Arrowverse, and there were little guest appearances in the second season of very smaller side characters, but there weren't any. Arrow didn't show up, or the Flash didn't show up, and they kept it pretty grounded to this family, and so it is. I think it's a big thing that at least on this chart, it only shows that. It doesn't show anything else, because I think they are, wiping the slate with everything else that has been on the CW, and might keep this, but we'll see.
Everything else has been canceled. The Flash is the last Arrowverse show to exist, and they just started their final season. And then other shows like Doom Patrol and Titans, they're finishing up their seasons, and then that's it.
And Superman and Lois might be right behind him. I know I think they've recasted one of the sons.
Yeah, he left for mental health reasons. He left for his mental health. So
yeah. So who knows how much longer that show will go? It kind of got a little funky in the second season. So maybe that has one season left, and then they'll be done with the CW era.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Because at a certain point, if you're going to be doing the sons with superpowers thing, you're just going to start telling Smallville stories again. So at that point, just bring back Smallville. I think Welling and Rosenbaum are both willing to do it. So
hell yeah.
But
this is where Constantine could fit in this DC Elseworlds category. And he did say, he announced a lot of other stuff too that we're going to talk about, but he did make it a point to say this is not the full first chapter. So, and this is not the full slate of future projects. So maybe he left that door open on purpose so that something like Constantine might still exist.
Yeah. So he announced a bunch of new stuff, 10 projects that are coming out. Mm-hmm. The first of which is Creature Commandos, which is...
Well, hold up. Are you announcing the first that's to release? Because he did say there is one project in these 10 that will release first.
Oh yeah, the one that has a release date is Superman Legacy.
And that comes out in July of 2025. So
yes.
He is putting some distance between the rest of the current slate of DC films and this new slate. Even though Joker will come out technically in 2024, we do have a good year or so, a year and a half before this new chapter starts. So I think that'll do all of these projects some good.
Well, yes, and I think the reason that Superman Legacy is the start of it is I think we'll probably see some of we'll probably see the Waller show before that on HBO Max. I think so, because he's pushing back the season 2 of Peacemaker. So I think we might see the Peacemaker people show up in that just to fulfill those contracts, if nothing else. But Superman Legacy will be written by James Gunn and most likely, according to reports, directed by James Gunn, and will focus on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Again,
it's based on the Grant Morrison comic.
Yeah.
That James Gunn seems to love. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's the first. That is the start of the Gods and Monsters chapter. Other films announced. Let's go through the film projects here as DC has them listed. The Authority, which is based on Wildstorm characters joining the DCU as members of the Authority. And they take matters into their own hands to do what they believe is right.
And that is a very interesting choice. But it had a strong fan base. I remember reading it initially, but not continuing it. So I'd like to go back. Yeah, I mean, talk about an obscure but bold choice, and that is supposed to be one of the foundations of this new DC universe. I am really interested in what they decide to do with that.
Yeah,
because outside of Superman and some of the other things in here, a lot of these things don't feel like the opening act of what people would consider the DC universe, the foundations of the DC universe. There's a lot of things in here that's like, okay, the Authority, that's what you're going with up front? Interesting, so yeah. I'm intrigued.
Well, I mean, look at James Gunn's career. Like, he's the one who brought the Guardians from like, no one knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. Like you said, Rocket Raccoon or Groot, right. No one knew them. But then Guardians comes out and everyone knows I am Groot or we are Groot. And
right. Like, but how deep into the MCU was that? That was still a gamble when they did it, but at least they had a foundation of the MCU. No one considered bringing out Guardians of the Galaxy in the first couple films of Phase 1 of the MCU. So anybody trying to say that this slate is copying the formula of the MCU, I beg to differ, because they would have never put something like the Authority or Guardians of the Galaxy this far up front.
They are very bold with some of the choices they made. So bold that they're going to call the Batman movie The Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, and it will have nothing to do with the Brave and the Bold animated series.
Yeah,
it's in fact it is interesting they even chose that title, because the what he was talking about is based off of is more of Batman and Son and almost Batman Incorporated storylines. So
yeah.
Do you have a write-up on that, what that's supposed to be about?
Yeah, the DCU will introduce its Batman and Robin in this unusual father-son story inspired by Grant Morrison's comic series. Which comic book series did he write with Bruce and Damian?
That was Batman and Son and Batman Incorporated.
Okay. My biggest concern about this whole DC slate lineup that they did is James Gunn saying that his favorite Robin is Damian Wayne.
That is concerning. I can see why it's a favorite because of how different it is. But I have this absolute version of Batman Incorporated, which has a lot to do with the Damian story in it. But and then I have Batman and Robin, which is the Batman and Son storyline. But how many decades worth of Batman fans wanted to see a Dick Grayson on screen, or Jason Todd, or what was the third Robin? I'm blanking on his name. There's just so many Robins. Tim Drake that came before Damian, and while Damian is interesting, but maybe that just goes to show that they're not here to tell origin stories. They're here to tell the stories that they want to tell. So who's to say that these Robins won't have a presence? They're just not starting at the beginning.
I believe they did say that this is the introduction to the Bat family. Like as many Batman films as there's been in the last 20 years, you haven't really had the Bat family be part of that. And that's such a big part of the comics and the video games. Like, those connections are what make like some of the best Batman stories. So if you have those characters in that world, you can tell those stories. And I think that's going to be something that they're going to do, if not in this film, in the next one, or whatever they do.
I get how some people might be worried that this is where they're starting, but let's put things a little bit into perspective. They're starting with at least a recognizable Robin in Damian. Be glad they're not doing what that Gotham Knights show is doing with introducing another adopted son of Bruce Wayne named Turner Hayes, who we've never heard of, but it's all about the Batman family picking up Gotham after the death of Batman, and who leads it? Turner Hayes. Who the hell is Turner Hayes?
I cannot so back when they canceled Batgirl, I thought I read that they canceled Gotham Knights as well, but they didn't.
That doesn't mean it's making it past the first season. But it's supposed to premiere.
I don't know
if
it's gonna. I'm hoping it goes Viva Laughlin and just gets like 3 episodes, but
it does not look good.
Misha Collins has teased Two-Face, so I'm kind of curious to see how they do Two-Face in that. But
I can't see him saving this. I had to remind myself who else is in this, and yeah, like they have Carrie Kelly in it. They've got Harvey Dent in it. It's just no. They got Stephanie Brown in it, and I'm like, don't do Stephanie Brown wrong. Like, why are you going to bring it? Stephanie Brown was a Robin momentarily in one of the best lead-ups to one of the best Batman storylines of what was it called? It was called War Games, which that's my favorite Batman's comic story arc of all time, and Stephanie Brown is the catalyst for that story.
Yeah.
So they've got an actual former Robin in this show, but they choose to go with a new character named Turner Hayes, and it's the dumbest name. I can't stop saying it because it's so dumb. But
anyway, back to the DCU. We talked a little bit about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This science fiction adventure, which is based on Tom King's amazing, award-winning recent comic stories, presents Supergirl viewers are not used to seeing. Have you read this run of comics?
I have not, and I want to. I almost went down to my comic book store this week to get it. I might still do it tomorrow because I'm driving past there. From everything I've heard, I'm pulling it up. I've heard it's... Because I like Tom King. I know a lot of people are like back and forth on whether they like Tom King. He did some good stuff for Batman in my eyes. But I've heard that this comic was like really good and really interesting. I'm trying to find a summary. Do you have a summary for it?
I do. Taking cues from the recent Tom King written miniseries, this movie promises a different take on what most think of when Superman's cousins comes to mind. We will see a difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth, and why did the ad just pop up right in front of where I was reading? We will see a difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, raised on a rock, a chip off of Krypton, who watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life, and then come to Earth. She is much more hardcore and not the Supergirl we're used to. I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah.
The thing about the Supergirl story, thing about the Supergirl story is like she knows Krypton. She grew up on Krypton, and I think a lot of the versions of Supergirl that we've gotten back to like Smallville have dealt with that.
Yeah.
And I think the Snyderverse kind of put themselves at a disadvantage when it came to Supergirl because they canonically she came to Earth in that ship that was buried in the ice thousands of years ago.
Right.
They could never really do a Supergirl story in the DCU or in the DCEU as it was called. If they wanted to stick to that Walmart exclusive prequel comic that came out.
Yeah, I remember that. That. I just looked up the summary for the actual comic that shares the same name. And just like with The Brave and the Bold, this could not be based on that comic. They just like the name. But he did reference Tom King, so it could very well. This summary says, Kara Zor-El, a young woman who saw her planet destroyed, was sent to Earth to protect a baby cousin who ended up not needing her. What was it all for? Wherever she goes, people only see her through the lens of Superman's fame. Just when Supergirl thinks she's had enough, everything changes. An alien girl seeks her out for a vicious mission. Her world has been destroyed and the bad guys responsible are still out there. She wants revenge, and if Supergirl doesn't help her, she'll do it herself, whatever the cost. And on the front cover of this comic is Supergirl holding a sword. So, you know, that could be a pretty cool story if they're taking elements from that
Yeah.
with the background that you said. So, yeah, that could be. I'd be down for that. It certainly sounds better than the Supergirl movie we got way back in the day.
Yeah.
I forgot how long ago that was, but it was not good.
And then the final film that they announced is Swamp Thing, which is going to be a horror film starring Swamp Thing. And
Yeah,
the rumor is that James Mangold, I think, is rumored to direct this.
Well, he's definitely expressed interest in it.
Yeah.
And that could be big. Now they've tried in 2019 to do a Swamp Thing show. And I didn't watch the whole thing. I think it was like a mix of like mysticism and police procedural and then Swamp Thing. And it didn't last very long. So this will be another recent attempt to make Swamp Thing a thing, but you know,
Yeah.
it makes sense when James Gunn is behind this slate, because of course he would want something like Swamp Thing to be a known a known entity in this first opening slate. So
he's got to put Michael Rooker in there somewhere.
Right. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. So those are the films. And then TV show wise, we have an 7-episode animated show called Creature Commandos, in which Amanda Waller creates a black ops team out of monstrous prisoners. James Gunn wrote all of the episodes for the first season. So it sounds like this is
an animated show that could be a lot of fun, especially if James Gunn wrote it.
Yeah. So the one thing with the DC universe is that they're going to integrate animation in with the live action stuff. So this is the first project that they've announced. I'm assuming it'll be the same actress playing Amanda Waller, Viola Davis, who's going to be playing her in Waller. So
yeah, that is currently the only confirmed casting to survive the reset, that she will be, Viola Davis will still be in this new slate. And you know, I know there's a lot of people out there that like, hey, if you want anybody to take this seriously, you need to wipe the slate clean and start over with new casting and everything. And I get that to some degree, even though I'm sad that Henry Cavill is out. But Viola Davis is a badass Amanda Waller, and I cannot envision anybody else doing that role. So I'm excited for that, and I can't wait.
It's like if you were going to build a DC universe in the 90s and like scrap all of the Batman stuff, but you can't recast Superman. Like you have to keep Christopher Reeve. Like I'm talking early 90s, like pre-accident Christopher Reeve. Like she's like, it's funny to me that the only casting that remains is from the first Suicide Squad movie. But I think you'll probably see the John Cena stay too, or you won't see it because it's John Cena.
Who knows? But she's great. I don't know if you ever got to see The Woman King from
I have
last
not
year.
yet.
Oh, she is a force in that movie too. I mean, she's great, and she has got that mad black woman role down. It's like you do not want to be on the opposite side of her wrath. And she's also got is she a good guy or is she a bad guy, or I don't really know thing down about Waller as well. She just plays that so well, and she just has this powerfulness behind her character. So thank God they saved her for that role, because she's great.
The show Waller is being written by Crystal Henry, who worked on Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, creator of the Doom Patrol TV series. That gives me a lot of hope for the Waller show.
Indeed.
I'm glad that whoever was behind Doom Patrol is going to stay with DC and work on some other stuff. Because Doom Patrol is probably my favorite DC show that's been out in the last few years.
And it has a strong fan base, and you know the show might not fit with this new thing, but that doesn't mean they need to burn bridges with all those creators. I'm glad they're bringing them back for other projects.
Yeah. We also have a Booster Gold TV show that was They brought Booster Gold into the Arrowverse for like a split second with Donald Faison on Legends of Tomorrow. But Booster Gold uses basic technology from the future to pretend to be a superhero in present day. The fact that we have Blue Beetle coming out this year and then we have Booster Gold coming, I feel like we're going to see Blue Beetle hang around for a bit because I feel like the two of them are going to be.
Yeah, because they have that connection, don't they?
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I don't know much about Booster Gold outside of the Smallville episode that he was on, but I'm excited for this. Like, I've always been interested in this character.
There's a lot of people who think James Gunn, who is known for recasting his favorites, is going to bring Chris Pratt over for Booster Gold. I would beg him not to, but he's gonna do whatever he wants.
I don't see him doing a TV show at this point.
I don't see it either, but it's James Gunn.
Actually, I take that back.
He just did a TV show, so Chris Pratt just did the Terminal List.
Yeah, and it got renewed. So if he's still doing the Terminal List by the time this gets around to it, he may not be allowed to do Booster Gold.
But we have what they didn't do with this announcement is what Kevin Feige did with giving all these films are coming out in the next 2 years. They didn't give any kind of dates for the majority of these projects. So we don't know how far Booster Gold could be in the future.
Yeah. Could be next year. Could be 5 years from now. Who knows?
It's not next. But that is interesting to note before we continue, is that from what's been reported, James Gunn and Safran's contract is only 3 years. So the fact that a lot of these projects aren't even starting until 2025, what does that mean? Are they just wanting them to build the foundation and then it's weird that they would say, we're gonna hire you for 3 years, but the majority of these projects aren't even starting until that final year. It's weird, but I'm sure that'll evolve over time as we get closer to some of these.
The other last two shows that they have is Lanterns. The enormous TV event series will follow intergalactic cops Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan as they uncover a dark mystery. They are describing this as our vision is very much in the vein of True Detective. So it'll be good for one season, then no one's going to care after that.
The second season had its merits, and True Detective is coming back this year with Jodie Foster.
Yeah,
it could be good, man. It could be good.
I can't wait for season 4 of the Green Lanterns where they have to bring in Jodie Foster as a Green Lantern.
Hey, yeah, Jodie Foster is badass. She did that one movie where it was like revenge for the death of her husband. Oh my god, she's a force. I'm excited about this. True Detective comment aside, because Green Lantern, for the past decade, people have been like, when are you bringing Green Lantern? When are we gonna flush out the bad taste of Ryan Reynolds movie and give this a chance, and then they were talking, there was a show in development that they scrapped. Yeah. And, at one point it was going to be a Hal Jordan show, and then it was going to be a Jon Stewart show, and then they were talking about it being one of the other ones, because there's been several, and they're all different, but the fact that this is starting with both Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, that's great, because Hal Jordan, there's so many good stories that involve him, and there's so many good stories that involve Jon Stewart, and I would hate for them to hop skip over Hal Jordan and not do some of those great Lantern foundational stories, just so we could get to Jon Stewart. So the fact that they're both here together, it could be a really good show, and it could lead into bigger things in the DC universe, which is kind of exciting.
And then finally, the last TV show that they announced is Paradise Lost, set in Themyscira, home of the Amazons and birthplace of Wonder Woman. This drama focuses focuses on the genesis and political intrigue of an island of all women. They have described this as Game of Thrones type style drama set on the island of Themyscira. It takes place before the events of the Wonder Woman films. So I guess from that, maybe Gal Gadot stays on as Wonder Woman.
I feel like they only threw that in there to account for why the other member of the Trinity is not listed in this slate at all. I mean, this isn't Wonder Woman Paradise Lost, it's Paradise Lost. So I feel like they just threw that in there to kind of say this is an historical piece. Yeah. But it is interesting, of all the bold choices we got here, we do have a Batman movie, we do have a Superman movie, we don't have a Wonder Woman movie. And when the first Wonder Woman movie came out, you know, it did bonkers well, and a lot of the press was, "What's up, MCU? DC beat you to it." They gave their main female heroine a movie before you've even considered it, and you've actively been fighting against it. Now we have this slate, and the third member of the foundational trinity of the DC universe, I guess, isn't involved, which is interesting.
Yeah. My take on this whole thing has been, if you're going to recast two of the three, just recast the whole Trinity. Like,
I think they are.
I hope they are. Like, I don't want you to keep one or two and then recast the other, because it doesn't make sense. Like, reading the description of Brave and the Bold, like, you could tell a Batman story with Ben Affleck in that role, but I don't think it can be the same Ben Affleck Batman that we saw, and I don't think it should be. I think it should be an older Bruce Wayne, like, not as old as they played him out in Batman v Superman, but like, if he's gonna have Damian, he has to be a little bit older than Robert Pattinson, I think.
If they're not. If they're going to say that there were three Robins before him, then yeah, he would need to be, in his 40s or something. But I like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I even forgive Wonder Woman 84 for more things than most people do. I think she is great. I think she's stunning. And I think she did this great job as Wonder Woman. I just, every time she was on screen, didn't matter if it was Batman v Superman or Justice League, or the Wonder Woman films, I adored her as Wonder Woman. And, James Gunn said on Twitter, we didn't fire Gal Gadot. But I think it's become clear that by that he meant we didn't fire her, but that doesn't necessarily... We didn't fire anybody, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're coming back for this new interpretation. There is a difference of recasting and firing, and I'm pretty sure they're recasting everybody but Amanda Waller, apparently.
Yeah.
So this is exciting. What do you think now that we've gone through this whole thing? What do you think?
I'm excited. There's still a lot that we don't know, but I think this is a promising start. Looking at it, it's hard to see how these are all connected, but I think it'll be interesting to see how it all connects. And that's like, I want to see that puzzle come together. I want to see where they fill in the gaps of things that aren't listed here. Yeah, I'm excited for it. How about you?
Yeah, I get the theme of gods and monsters, and depending on how far back the Paradise Lost show goes, I could see literal gods being in that show. The Creature Commandos thing was an interesting choice. I'm excited to see what that is, especially since it's only 7 episodes. So I'm guessing they're not going to be short episodes.
No.
But it did make me think of Harley Quinn. Is that show done? Or is that show going to be in the DC Elseworlds? It's interesting how popular that show is, that it's not listed even with the previous projects. Have you heard, is that show canceled?
I don't know if it's
closing down?
canceled. I think they have a Valentine's Day special coming out either this
saw
week or
that.
next week.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the show itself. I think everything, not even just DC stuff, anything that has been on HBO Max is up in the air right now. So,
Very true. But arguably, that one has been one of the most celebrated shows.
yeah,
And it's also the least connected to anything. So I could see it surviving the reset. But
I hope so. I'm excited to see them start new, but I'm also excited to see what Elseworlds brings to their, like, what else are they going to bring into Elseworlds? Like, because you got the Batman, you got Joker.
yeah,
Like,
look at all this. It's mostly Batman related content
Yeah.
on here.
Like,
Yeah.
we talked a bit before about Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum talking about DC stuff and like wanting to do a Superman animated series. Like, if you're going to do Elseworld stories, like do a Smallville animated series. Like, that's the chance.
There's a little fan campaign to cast Rosenbaum as the Lex for Superman Legacy. I mean, it's not like you can bring back Gene. What's his face?
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman.
You could. He's still around.
Have you seen him? He's barely there.
Yeah.
He is.
He retired like 20 years ago.
I know. I miss him. I saw a picture of him from last year, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's Gene Hackman. He is in his 90s. He's like 93 or 94. So
yeah,
and good on him for surviving.
Yeah, he did Welcome to the Mooseport. He's like, okay, not going to top that. I'm out. But
I am excited about this. I don't care what. I've seen so many comments of, oh, they're just copying. They're trying to catch up to the MCU. If the goal was not to look like they're copy pasting the MCU, I feel like they've achieved that goal, because this has no rhyme or reason, and maybe that's by design. And what I liked about it was they didn't commit to dates, because I don't know if you've heard, but after that presentation that Kevin Feige did in the fall, they've already said we're not going to be able to make all those dates happen. So yeah. I don't even know why they even do that anymore. Like, just, this, we don't know if this is over the next 3 years or over the next 10 years. We don't know how long Chapter 1's going to take, but, as long as it's quality, it's worth the wait.
I think what happens with something like Marvel is they put dates out there, like unreleased Marvel film, so they have to put what's out there, what they have on the slate for that, and then announce it so other studios can plan around it. Mm-hmm. And then they end up changing it. Like, yeah, it's
weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, but I'm interested in all this. I think this is very encouraging, and it's very different than anything I would have expected.
Yeah, because if you look at the first phase of Marvel, that all led to the Avengers. I don't know what this is leading towards,
right?
At all. So
yeah, it doesn't seem like a slate of origin films. It doesn't seem like leading up to a Trinity or Justice League style film.
No.
I can't tell, just the title Superman Legacy is far from an origin film. Batman with his fourth Robin doesn't seem like an origin film. The only real origin film that might be in this whole lot is either The Authority or Supergirl. Well, I guess Booster Gold, but certainly not any of the main characters. And so, yeah, I mean, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they don't need to build towards something. If they can just build upon a legacy of quality films, and then maybe in Chapter 2 they start bringing in a central storyline that's a little more clearer to see. But, I mean, I just want these all to be good. I really don't care if they interconnect all that much.
Yeah, me too. The one thing I want that it looks like they're not delivering on is I don't want more Black Adam. Like, so I'm glad that that's not on here at all, personally. So
Yeah,
but it's interesting to see.
Although, in his announcement, he did kind of suggest that Shazam was separated from things. So that doesn't necessarily mean the future couldn't have a Black Adam.
I just don't think it's going to be that Black Adam. And depending on how tweets go, it might not be that Shazam. But that's a whole nother subject. So,
Can I ask you one other thing real quick on this? Do you have the picture that you put in the show notes up? Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah.
Okay, so the picture that I pulled up off Google is slightly different than yours. The one that you shared, the line for Chapter 1 kind of goes underneath Creature Commandos and Waller, while the one that I have, it's all under the Chapter 1 banner. So what does that mean? And do you know what that means?
I don't. I'm assuming that's because Waller and Creature Commandos seem to be spin-offs of the Suicide Squad because of Waller's involvement, and then Weasel is also in Creature Commandos. So...
Oh, Weasel. Oh, I totally missed that. That's good. I liked Weasel. That was weird.
Yeah.
That was weird for sure. Okay. That's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
That'd be my guess. And then you have the official start with Superman Legacy. So
Makes sense. Okay.
But yeah, that's all we've got on the DC reboot lineup. Now we get to prepare for Ant-Man next week. So tune in on the... Let me look at the dates here, because our review for Ant-Man and the Wasp will be dropping the 25th of February, which seems like it's very far off, but it's not.
It's just how it is.
It's just how it is.
We'll give you some time. It's an Ant-Man movie, so I'll be really interested to see. It's a third Ant-Man movie, and while I have an appreciation for parts of the first two, this will be the question, because I feel like this could either be one of the biggest movies for late, because I feel like a lot of people are talking about this, but at the same time, it's an Ant-Man movie, so I really wonder how many people are going to rush to see it. There's predictions that this might be on Disney Plus within 30 days of release.
Oh, really?
That doesn't sound good. So I'll be interested to see how many people come out. So this buffer time for y'all to see it and then to come back and listen to our review, it might be good that you have some extra time, because I don't know if everyone's going to come out first opening weekend to see this. I'll be there because I'm hoping good things.
I will be too, mostly because of this. But yeah, so tune in for that to stay up to date on everything brilliant but lazy. Make sure to follow Victims and Villains on Facebook and Instagram. Yep. Until next time, for Brilliant but Lazy, I'm Alan.
And I am Josh. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah. And we'll see you in the quantum realm.